Hey guys, this is Illusion PODFIC, and today we're going to be reading Green Through and Through by Another Fucking Robin. This is Chapter 15. Peter decides to celebrate surviving his first day of school and his new friend by beginning his search for unused tech for Spider-Manning in his brief window of time before he has to head to Martha's for dinner. He allows himself an hour and ends up finding a good amount of usable tech. Half a portable fan, a Nokia phone that looks like it has been run over by a car, a mini fridge, a computer mouse with a chewed-through wire, and the absolute miracle of a semi-smashed camera. Oh, and a shit ton of bullet casings. He can use the motor and the fan, the power cells from the phone, and the internal components of the mouse to make himself some of the most important components of his web shooters. They'll probably end up being super clunky, but they'll have to do. If he can make the bullet casings airtight, he could use them as web cartridges, and he can absolutely use the camera lens to make some expensive lenses for his mask. And if he can fix the mini fridge, he could also use it to store extra webbing, letting it stay as taut as possible and make it able to keep for longer. All in all, he truly hit the vigilante jackpot tonight, and after he carries it all back to the bookshop, skipping all the way, he has a good 10 to 15 minutes of waving his hands around his head and squealing to properly capture and use his excitement. He walks through the entrance to the shelter and joins the steadily growing dinner queue. Once he gets to the front, his plate is filled by a pleasantly familiar face. Hiya, Peter. How's life treating you? Harper, I haven't seen you in a while. Oh, and yeah, pretty good. I just had my first day at Gotham Prep, he replies, gesturing at his rumpled uniform. Yeah, I work super inconsistent times, and that's great. Gotham Prep is an amazing school if you're sciencey. I'm offended by your misjudgment, Harper. I've been told I simply exude nerd energy. She chuckles and finishes filling his plate. Whoever told you that hit the nail right on the head. Bye, Peter. He steps out of the queue and heads towards the table that he, Arthur, and Kat have pseudo-claimed. Bye, Harper. He waves his goodbye to Arthur and carefully folds and pockets a crayon drawing of what is supposedly Batman having lunch with the Tooth Fairy because he was lonely. Duh. Courtesy of Kat. Sliding it beside Duke's phone number, then he heads straight back to the bookshop instead of his new routine of heading to the speakeasy for snack food and fun conversations with Miss Carmen and some probably super shady patrons. He wants to start working on his gear as soon as possible, mind already racing with possibilities. He sits down cross-legged on the floor and assesses his haul. He wants to start on his web shooters and reaches out to the fan to pull it apart, before he realizes that he doesn't have access to any chemicals, and he doesn't know if he'll be able to attain some of his more exclusive, illegal ones in this universe. That would mean he has to tweak the formula, and that could mean that his casings might need to be bigger or smaller, or his web shooters might need to sit at a different temperature to maintain all the properties he wants. The materials he has are cheap and will probably break if bent with super strength too often. If he makes his web shooters now and ends up with a different formula with different storage needs, he would have to remake them, and with his lack of tools, he'll have to use the super strength, and he can't afford for any of his materials to snap or break. So web shooters are a no-go. Lenses? No, he doesn't have any fabric for a mask to attach it to. Most of the wiring for the mask expression is sewn into the fabric, and even if he did, he doesn't want to make his lenses out of normal glass, a lesson he learned through experience. Let's just say that Peter is thankful for his healing factor. So he either needs sports fabric, mesh, or reinforced glass, that he doesn't have the funds for, and he doesn't have any of that on him. Lenses also out. Web cartridges and mini fridge are also non-options for all the same reasons as his web shooters. He lets out a long, petulant whine. He was so motivated and ready, and now he can't do jack shit. He stands up and starts pacing around the pile of would-be gadgets, hitting the heels of his hands together in frustration. It's already dark. All the shops with anything worth buying will be locked up tight, and Peter is not stealing. Did he steal from Bruce Wayne? Yes, but a billionaire and a small shop in the Bowery are two very different things. He'll have to wait until tomorrow. That's so far away. Ugh. His annoyance drives him up to the roof. He's pacing in circles and muttering about Parker luck when he hears the release of a grappling hook and turns around. It's Red Hood, bathed in eerie green moonlight. Naked. Peter tries to respond in kind, but his voice comes out as a low, agitated sound rather than words, so he settles with a curt wave. Hood cocks his head to the side and sits on the edge of the building opposite to Peter, watching him pace. You want to talk about it? Peter halts in his stomping and scrunches up his face in thought. Talking helps, but does he trust Red Hood? He's a crime lord, a vigilante, a murderer, and a hero. A lot of conflicting things in one person. Gotham citizens have lots of opinions about him. Some sing his praises for cleaning up crime alleys, some condemn him as no better than the rogues that he fights. But Peter has never been one to take others' opinions at face value, and studies the man in front of him. He's tall and square, easily imposing in theory, but he holds himself in a way to make himself smaller and less intimidating. He's patient, letting Peter run away during their little tour of the city, and letting Peter take the time to make up his mind now. His spidey senses is at its baseline, meaning that he's not only safe in the short term, but that Hood has no malicious intent. And he practically glows. An orange shimmer surrounding him like heat haze, only fully blossoming if you don't look too hard, but impossible to miss what's spotted. Peter decides that he trusts Red Hood. He walks over and plonks himself next to him on the ledge. With a long-suffering sigh, he obviously can't tell Hood all the details, but he can dance around the topic like a damn ballerina. Miss Romanoff taught him well. I wanted to do something, but now I can't. And it's really annoying because I've been looking forward to it, you know? Like, I was ready and motivated and everything, and I have nothing to do with all the... He waves his hand in vague circles that I've built up. It has nowhere to go. Red Hood considers his words for a moment. What kind of something? Just an engineering problem. I like to tinker. Gives my hand something to do. Hood hums in understanding and abruptly stands. Stay here. I'll be right back. He grapples away and Peter remains on the ledge, pressing the pads of his thumbs into his gums to try and alleviate the near-constant pain to no effect. He's about to start biting at the heel of his hand when Red Hood returns with 2 paper bags. He sets them on the roof, one with a soft crunch and the other with a metallic clang. Peter raises an eyebrow and cocks his head to the side. Red Hood chuckles, muttering about puppies far too quiet for normal ears to hear. He sits back next to Peter and reaches onto one of the bags, pulling out a helmet. One almost identical to the one he wears, except with a missing faceplate. His confusion must be visible because the vigilante elaborates. It was gonna get scrapped. Nasty fight with Killer Croc. Thought maybe you could tinker with it or something. Peter's mouth hangs open. Red Hood was trusting him with his helmet? It gets shoved unceremoniously into his hands along with a small toolbox. Go fuck wild, kid. Peter hesitates, but soon comes to the realization that Red Hood is quite a lot like Mr. Castle. He wouldn't share his time or gear if he didn't want to, and more importantly, they're both extremely stubborn. So instead of protesting, Peter beams at the hero and hops off the ledge to give him a hug. He can feel Hood momentarily stiffen before giving an awkward pat on his shoulder. He leans back. Thanks, Mr. Red Hood. He hears him snort, and Peter goes to make himself comfortable in the center of the rooftop. Hood watches for a couple of minutes as Peter busies himself with inspecting the inside of the helmet. With a truly inhuman amount of care, he is not about to squish an important wire and ruin this for himself, before he pulls out a thick canvas-bound book out of the inside of his jacket. Why does he have a book in there? How did it even fit? And begins to read. Peter's hands fly over circuitry and wires, adjusting and tweaking, allowing his mind to wander into empty thoughts and meaningless tunes. After an indiscernible amount of time, the pleasant silence is broken by Peter's stomach rumbling. He's going to look near it when he hears a hollow thunk. He looks up to see Red Hood, presumably post-facepalm. I completely forgot. Idiot. He rubs his knuckles on his helmet and sighs before picking up the other bag and hands Peter a plastic takeout container and setting an identical one down on his own lap. Peter halts in his modifying of the helmet and tentatively opens the package. It smells heavenly. Chili and meat and cheese and onion, somehow still warm in the frigid Gotham air. He reluctantly looks up to tell Red Hood that he doesn't eat this food, when he's already gotten 3 meals today. Sure, that's less than his body needs to function, and sure, it's the first time he had that in 2.5 weeks, but Red Hood doesn't need to know that. But when he looks up, he sees that Red Hood isn't watching him like he thought he would be, but instead taking off his helmet. Peter fixes his gaze firmly on the ground and hides his eyes behind his hands. Oh, helmet, your face, my eyes, what? The vigilante snorts. Kid, it's fine, seriously, I've got a mask underneath. And I can't exactly eat out of my helmet now, can I? Peter slowly retracts his hands from the little wall they'd built around his eyes and looks up at Red Hood. He actually has a hood now. The name finally makes sense. It also doubles as a pretty effective mask under the moonlight, casting everything above the tip of his nose in the shadow. Peter drops his gaze again to stop himself from seeing into the darkness. Ultraviolet vision isn't great for maintaining privacy and trust. Red Hood sends Peter a lopsided grin, not that Peter sees it. What, can't stand to look at my ugly mug? Peter's about to launch into ramble defense when the man laughs. I'm just kidding, kid. God, you're polite. Where are you from? You're clearly not a native. New York, but I'm not a kid. He can feel the vigilante raise his eyebrows as he asks, Are you old enough to drink? Peter remains quiet, but the silent night air is quickly filled with laughter. Hood's laughter is quiet and solid, coming out from his throat instead of his chest. It isn't clear and bold like Nightwing's, silent like Duke's, or even wheezing like Arthur's. Hood's laughter is loud and steady, and something tells Peter that it's rare. His chest fills with the warm pride at managing to make the man laugh. Okay, so maybe I am a kid, but I still resent that nickname. What am I supposed to call you then? Peter. Okay then, Peter. Eat your damn food. But, nope. Wait. I don't want to hear it, Pete. Eat your chili dog and enjoy it. They engage in a small staring contest before Peter's stomach growls again, marking his defeat. I don't have a choice, do I? Hood flashes a wicked grin. Nope. Peter pouts and goes to eat the chili dog, much to the relief and celebration of the orange heroes in his head. Hood is watching smugly from his seat on the ledge. Peter rolls his eyes and bites into the food dramatically, attempting to make a show for the vigilante, but as soon as his teeth touch the warm food, he feels a brief stab of excruciating pain in his canines, and then abrupt relief as his teeth fucking extend and sink into the meat. That's horrifying enough, but at the exact moment he feels his mouth flood with the thick, bitter liquid that melts the chili dog, leaving an odd tangy flavor fizzling on his tongue. He spits out the rest of the food and curls up on himself, his hands flying up instinctively to try and figure out what the fuck is going on in his mouth. Hood makes some sort of exclamation that Peter entirely ignores, too busy using his hand and tongue to map out the new layout of his teeth. His canines have grown an entire inch into long fangs that hang over his bottom teeth and slab slightly into his jaw. What the actual fuck? Peter could not have worded it better. He is brought back to reality when he realizes that Hood is shaking his shoulders. Tur, are you having an allergic reaction? Do I have to take you to the hospital? Are you okay? I'm dying. I'm completely dying. Buy fangs today and get a speech impediment completely free. What an amazingly mortifying deal. Everything's alright. I'm dying. No need to worry. I'm so dying. I'm actually just gonna go, okay? Bye, Hood. Peter is down the fire escape, swinging through a conveniently placed open window and back inside the bookshop, much faster than humanly possible. But right now, he sort of doesn't care, much too horrified that his brief time in Gotham has literally changed him into a vampire. Pete, but I don't think that's what's happening here. Shut up, Luke. I'm really thinking out here. Peter practically screeches as he paces down the aisles of books, hands up and hovering by his face. This situation is scary. Peter looks bigger with his hands up, therefore the situation is less scary with his hands up. Solid logic. What the thick-dackety that it's going on with my mouth? I suggest looking in a mirror. Peter snaps his fingers, sprints to the employee bathroom, thanking the Wakandan king profusely. What is the proper honorific for a king? Your Highness? Your Majesty? He kicks the door open, only minorly splintering it in the process. His hands are covered in acid saliva, and he doesn't want to touch anything. And he practically launches himself at the mirror. Now he can see the long fangs in his mouth. He thinks that he could actually be pretty menacing. You know, if he didn't speak like this. But the visual does at least clear up one thing. He is a vampire. Suck it, Luke. Think again, Spidey. Vamps don't have reflections, says a British voice that he recognizes to be Blade. Wait, he never gave Mr. Brooks his identity. Does he know now? Does everyone know? Oh my god, this is so bad. Calm down, webhead. We can only see what you want us to see. To me, your face and name are muffled, but you must be buddy-buddy with Iron Fist over there. He seems like he can see through the frosted glass bullshit. I can! Back to the point. This isn't vampirism, so it's something else. Oh, well that's reassuring. The identity thing and the non-vampirism. He opens his mouth as wide as it'll go, which is far further than a normal mouth, much to the horror, disgust, curiosity of the other heroes, to get a better look. With this angle, he can see that his fangs sit uncomfortably in front of his bottom set of teeth because they're a couple millimeters too long to properly fit in his mouth, without stabbing into his gums, and just slightly too curved to sit nicely against his other teeth. His mouth also feels tingly in that I just ate pineapple kind of way. Oh, this must be a side effect of the universal hop. Or maybe an effect of the green haze in his memories because he isn't turning into a vampire. He's mutating. He remembers reading up on spiders after the bite. They don't chew, swallow, and digest their prey like mammals do. They inject their food with digestive enzymes and slurp the insides like a smoothie. Bit gross, but is it really more gross than digesting food in your intestines? Yes! The echoes of heroes from his homeworld yell in unison. Either way, one of the enzymes must be Proteus. That's why his tongue is so tingly. He's trying to digest himself. Peter, we love you. Please stop talking. No, Sam. This has rapidly transitioned from horrifying to interesting. Let him have this. Yes, Falcon. This is most interesting. Allow him to continue. I am in agreement with the child. Thank you, Princess Shuri. She nags at him to drop the title, over his dead body. And Loki, this is cool. Anyway, that must be the reason for his toothache the last couple of days. He's been growing fangs this whole time. And the fangs stemming from his spider DNA explain why they're so uncomfortable and inconvenient. Spider fangs don't sit inside their mouths at all, but held on the outside attached to the chiclera instead of the mandibles like mammals and insects. So it makes sense that his fangs don't fit. They aren't designed to. The mutation hypothesis also explains why the other physical and behavioral changes he's noticed since his arrival in Gotham. Wait, if he has fangs, does he have venom now? Is he venomous? Peter doesn't know which spider he's made up of. He has his guesses. He's definitely part jumping spider. But knowing Norman Osborn, he doubts that any of the spiders were not at least marginally venomous. Peter doesn't want to be venomous. He doesn't want to have fangs. These can't be used for anything except harm and hurt and fear. And Peter doesn't want them in his face. He wants them to go away and never come back. Please and thank you. How do I fix this? You know you're an anatomy best spinner. Why do you think they emerged in the first place? Well, they came out right as he bit into the chili dog, which he didn't actually get to eat, well, properly. Probably because he's been effectively starving himself, and his body's getting too antsy to wait for him to digest the food the old-fashioned way, which means that to make them go away he needs to eat until he's full, which he can't do. Fuck, where is he going to get food? The sky? Not the sky, no, but perhaps the roof? The Wakandan king suggests gently. The roof? Oh my god, Red Hood, the roof. He totally just embarrassed himself and disappeared on Red Hood. He's literally going to die. Thor should just strike him down with a bolt of lightning right now because this is probably the most mortifying event of his entire life. He bonks his head gently on the sink, managing not to crack the porcelain. Yay, under his breath, repeating stupid Parker, under his breath. He can never look Red Hood in the eyes again. Good God, he's dramatic. You get used to it, Luke and Danny reply in sync. I resent that. If you really want the fangs to go away before school tomorrow, you're going to have to go up to the roof and continue eating, Pete. Either that or hope that they go away by themselves overnight. Peter really hates when they make good arguments. The roof is empty when he gets up there. Through the roof access door this time, he is still attempting to maintain a level of secrecy about his identity. He's failing miserably, but that's not the point. Well empty of people. Thank God. Hood left his helmet, the one Peter was working on, the toolbox, and the takeout bag with the chili dogs. Peter walks over to the bag and notices a couple of things inside that are definitely not chili dogs. A burner phone, an EpiPen, and a Post-it. Hey Pete, please don't die on me, kid. I got you an EpiPen. You can get free ones for yourself at Dr. Tompkins' clinic and Crime Alley if you need extras. Also, just in case it wasn't an allergic reaction, or you have any friends who could use it, I left the chili dogs. I trust you will make sure someone will eat them. Also, keep the helmet. She was headed for the trash anyway. Saves me some work. Consider it an apology for the force feeding. Same goes for the phone. Call if you're ever in trouble. I'll be here tomorrow to make sure you're alive or whatever. Hood. Peter folds up the Post-it and slides it into his pocket beside his cat's drawing and Duke's number. Maybe he isn't the only socially inept person in Gotham. Alright guys, and that's the end of chapter 15 of Green Through and Through by Another Fucking Robin. I hope you guys liked it and I'll see you next chapter.